hunger turned right inside my own self. It didn't go away. It just turned right inside of myself. Because I had a fundamental misunderstanding of love. I had a fundamental misunderstanding of forgiveness. So I thought that, we say that, oh, forgive and forget. What a trite saying, because you know what, that's not even in the power of the memory to forget at times. The Catechism says that actually as our memories are purified through forgiveness, our memories are not forgotten, they're purified toward compassion. So we have these kind of trite little sayings tonight. There are some things that you can, quote unquote, forgive and forget, but man, there are some things, aren't they, that are so deep. The deep, deep, deep things that is made very light of, and when we have sayings like that. And there were certain things in my life that I couldn't forget. And I thought that if I forgave you, say for example, this particular person, the person that abused me, I thought if I forgave that person, that would be like letting them off the hook. And they would get away with it. And they could not get away with what they'd done because it was way too painful. It sent shockwaves throughout my entire life, scars that I have to this day, so to speak, on my soul. And so I was going to make sure that they remembered every time I saw them or every time they came in my vicinity that I remembered and that I didn't forget. And after so many years of doing that, who was the one who had, all the addictions? Who was the one that was broken by lust and promiscuity and self-hatred and clinical depression and just all this, my life was a wasteland. And just some of it I carried right into religious life. Because, you carry a lot of your own baggage into your next day, into your vocation. It doesn't go away. And I had a vision of myself one day, and I tell this story often from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18. It's the parable of the unforgiving steward, right? Where Jesus tells this parable when Peter asks him, Lord, how often do we have to forgive? 7 times? 70, Jesus like, oh, Peter. Not 7 times, but 7 times 70 times, or 77 times, depending on the translation. And he tells a story of the steward, right, who owes the master a lifetime of wages. And out of mercy, out of just that compassion, that disposition to be kind and merciful, the master forgives him his entire debt. And that man gets up and he goes out to a fellow, worker in the household who owes him 6 months' wages. And he begins, just the visual imagery is just absolutely beautiful. He begins to choke him. He grabs him by the collar and he sees him. He begins to throttle him, saying, pay back what you owe. Pay back what you owe me. And that man falls on his knees and he says, my dear sisters, he says verbatim what that man had just said. Oh, but the unforgiving servant's having none of it. And he orders him to be put in prison, his family to be sold. And the other workers in the household are horrified. And they go back to the master and they report to the master what happened. And the master calls back in that servant. I'm going to paraphrase here. The master calls back in that servant and he says to him, what are you doing? What are you doing? I forgave you. I forgave you your entire debt because you asked me to. But this servant of yours who owes you a mere fraction of the amount, him you cannot forgive. And what I find very interesting about that parable is that servant says nothing. Nothing. He doesn't say, oh my gosh, you're right, or oh man, I didn't see that. He just says absolutely nothing. And I saw myself, and I was well into religious life, y'all. I saw myself one day in that parable, and I was not the benevolent master. I was the unforgiving servant. And I had my abuser by the collar of his shirt after all those years saying, man, you pay back what you owe me because you owe me. And I can honestly tell you to this day that that person is not sorry. They're not sorry at all. And at that moment, I had this huge wave of realization wash over me. And I was well into, healing and therapy and things like that. But that was one of the last strongholds of my life that was just still really, really powerful in my life. And I saw myself in that vision and I was horrified. I was horrified. And I was like, I can't do this. I cannot live like this anymore. I can't do it. I cannot do it. And I had a very wise woman that came into my life and she helped me. And she said, Sister Miriam, forgiveness is not saying that what the person did didn't matter. Quite frankly, it's honestly taking a full account of exactly what happened. And it is your willingness to take a full account of all the emotions. That's why forgiveness, especially for the deep stuff, is often a process. Okay? As the emotions come out, as the pain comes out, it's a continual journey of forgiveness, my dear sisters. It is taking a full account of what happened. It is bringing them to the foot of the cross and releasing your grasp upon them and commending them to the Lord, asking the Lord for pardon and strength. Because it's from his passion that we get the power to forgive. And that reality changed my life. I mean, you want to know who the next person I had to forgive was? Me. How many of us have ourselves by the collar of the shirt, so to speak? Completely just, we say things to ourselves we would never say to anybody And somehow we don't understand, like we make, like Connie was saying, we make agreements with the strongholds. We don't understand the tender heart of God for us. The tender heart, right? Because what he's calling us to is this journey of forgiveness. Like I said, it's not letting somebody off the hook. It's a willingness to take a full account. It's a mercy and a grace from God. And it's the willingness to be willing to receive and offer healing and freedom. So in your heart, is there somebody in your life right now? Is there somebody in your life right now that needs your forgiveness? Is it yourself? Maybe, sometimes, quite frankly, I hear a lot of stories, and I've been through a lot in my own journey, and I think a lot of people are angry with God. And there's a fear of that, of like feeling that God, we sing that song, God will never disappoint me, where people like, man, God disappointed me a lot, because we don't understand, right? So those areas of our life, we bring our hearts, see, my dear sisters, we have to bring our hearts in the depths of our hearts to him, where he wishes to minister to us, to bring us his mercy. Okay. I just have a few minutes left, and if you don't mind, if it's okay with you, and then I'm going to end with a short video clip, but would you be okay? Can I just lead you through a forgiveness exercise? Okay. So I'm just going to invite you to kind of put down what you have in your hands, okay? Just put it down, and I'll post later on Twitter this whole thing, so please don't worry about it, okay? And if you find that you don't want to come on the journey, you don't have to. It's okay. I'm just going to lead us through a little journey, and just for time's sake, I'm going to continue just to keep going, because I have to keep going. But if there's a step in the process that you need to stay on, I'm going to invite you to stay on that, okay? I also want to invite you not to self-censor. So as we think